Excuse me. Hi there. I felt called to make a video specifically about the importance of reading, all different kinds of books, especially at this time, given the constant changes. Now, remember, right? Everything about this world is change. That's really the only permanent thing. Now, in where we are right now, I'm filming in middle February of 2026. We are seeing a lot of structures and the external world collapsing. A lot of the systems that we have thought worked do not work, and really have never worked for everyone. And the light is being shown on that in all different kinds of ways, different systems, even recognizing, what truly matters in life. We're starting to shift collectively into understanding that, love, compassion, empathy, truth, community are the foundation of life, essentially. Now, what does that mean about books, reading, right? So I've always been an avid reader. My mom read to both my sister and I, while we were still in the womb. She had always encouraged us to read. We were constantly going to the library growing up. And that has stuck with me throughout my whole life. I love to read. It is a way for me to escape in moments. It is a way for me to connect with people who have similar experiences with me. It's also a way to connect with completely different experiences, whether it's a different place in the world that I've never been to, really anything, like a life experience that I have no knowledge of, or just who I am. I might not ever experience something like that. Reading is such a powerful way to learn how to be empathetic, to read about someone who is entirely different from who you are, and to still recognize parts of you within that person, and vice versa, right? Parts of that person within you. And it can also be not a person, right? One of my favorite books is Pox, and it's a story about a fox who is abandoned he's forced to be abandoned. But the story is told in the perspective of his boy, who raised him. And it's told in the perspective of Pox, the fox, as he makes his journey back to his boy. So whether you have read before, whether you have tried to read and it's just not for you, that's okay. The beauty of living in 2026 is that there is so much knowledge out there, so many different voices, different ways of accessibility. So if you don't physically like to read a book in front of you, you don't like the words, right? You can have audiobooks. You don't have to buy audiobooks. There's called the Libby app, which is through the public libraries. On your phone, on your tablet, whatever it is, you can download it as long as you have a library card. You can borrow audiobooks. You can borrow regular books. Graphic novels. One of my favorite ways to read is through a graphic novel. If you're not familiar with what a graphic novel is, it's kind of like a comic book. It's not always funny. One of my favorite, if not my all-time favorite graphic novel is called 49 Days by Agnes Lee. And it's a story about a young adult girl who identifies as a Buddhist, and she ends up dying tragically. And the 49 days are the days of transition in the Buddhist religion. Once you die physically, you go on this journey of 49 days until you reach the place to journey on. In that graphic novel, there's so much that you can experience if you open yourself up to it. It might be a different way of learning or reading, but that in itself is a way of opening yourself up. Now, because of all of the changes happening, the constant chaos, the constant feeling of being disconnected, right? Like really thinking about who you are in this world and what you stand for can be pretty isolating when you don't resonate with the messages that are being told. What books can also do, right, is in moments bring you back to who you are, right? Even if that means escaping the outside world. I love horror. I adore horror. And one of the reasons why is because not only do I find parts of myself within the stories, but I also really connect with my body when reading horror. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you've ever tried reading a scary book or even like a tense book, like a thriller, right? You can feel, if you tune in, you can feel your heartbeat starting to race when it starts to get tense, right? You might start to sweat or feel like clammy if something freaky is about to happen. You can feel it, right? I love being in public and reading a scary book, right? And coming to a really freaky scene where I like don't even realize it, but like I put my hand to my mouth or I'm like, and then I start to giggle because I'm like, wow, like that. Imagine that power of being able to create something like that has such a visceral reaction from someone. So my invitation for you is to read. Maybe it's reading books that you have tried to read in the past, or maybe reading something that you really loved as a kid. One thing too that I've really found powerful within myself, empowering, is to put down a book if I'm not interested in it. I'm such a mood reader. So, and I've noticed too, depending on where I'm at in my hormonal cycle, that I actually gravitate more towards certain books, certain genres, just depending on where my hormones are at. So there are often times where in my house I have, 3 or 4 books going because it depends really on the day of what I'm into. And that's okay, right? It might be overwhelming for you and that's fine. But my point is you don't have to stick with a book just to get through it. If that's something that you want to commit to and you feel like disciplined to do that, go for it. But you do not have to force yourself to read something if you don't enjoy it. There are way too many books out there to find and enjoy than to force yourself to read something that you don't enjoy. And with that, one more little fun thing that I'm going to sprinkle in. If you really do connect with this idea of being a mood reader, right? Like kind of vibing with books rather than like sticking to a certain genre. There is a community out there, a platform, I guess, called StoryGraph. I just got on StoryGraph maybe like a month and a half ago. But it is so cool. And it's different than what, other reading platforms because the power really feels within the reader. So you have the option, if you want, to like write a review of the book. You can rate it 1 to 5 stars, and also too they have like, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, so you don't have to do like a full star or however many stars. Something that is so cool is that within the review, you can also put the moods or the sensations, emotions that you experienced when reading the book. So if something was really dark or really reflective or inspiring, you can put that. You can also add if the pace of the book, or if the book was more plot driven, right? The events of the story was what was carrying the book, or if it was more character development. It was more the growth of the characters that was bringing you along throughout the story. Could be a mix between the two. You can share about the diversity of the characters, or if the flaws of the characters are one of the main points of the book. Something that I also really like, given that I'm a sensitive reader, so certain things I either just don't want to read about, or I start to feel a little panicky, and things come up with it. You can add content warnings in case there are readers who are looking for that. So, and one more thing. If you are already on Goodreads and you want to make a switch to StoryGraph, a little bit more community-based platform, StoryGraph exports your library from Goodreads. So you have all the things from Goodreads in your StoryGraph. Of course, you can add more and all of that. They have the reading challenge if that's your thing too. So much to explore on StoryGraph that I highly recommend at least checking out. It's a free platform. You can make your own login. You can find friends. It makes it a little bit more fun and maybe motivates you to find more books, more stories, and experiences. So yeah, the power of reading. And again, if this is your first time or you're just starting to get into books, right, go slow. There's no rush, there's no race. This is something that you are meant to enjoy. And in that enjoyment, you will find that you will open up more to understanding more experiences, to understanding maybe, like what is it like to live like a tree? What is it like to be a kid again? Let yourself open up to all the experiences. And in connecting with yourself and connecting with these stories, you're choosing to connect. You're choosing to resist the separation that we are being told to do. So, feel free to find me on StoryGraph. My picture is my sweet winking corgi. I wish you the best, and feel free to reach out if you have questions. I also am technically a librarian, so I do have knowledge of how to access books. If you're not even sure where to begin, come talk to me. One of the things that I loved about being in a public library was helping someone find the book that they were being drawn to, even if they didn't even realize it at the time. We're always being drawn to things, right? Let your heart open up to those stories, and you never know what you're going to find. So good luck on your journey. Maybe we'll meet along the way. and see you soon.